Hey, everybody, welcome back to a deep look into the paranormal. This is your hosts, Jennifer and David Wills, and today we'll be taking a look at, um, what is his name? Because
Uh, we're,
I'm the
we're looking at,
sorry, I'm the color commentary this time, so I don't have any notes.
yeah, I'll be taking the lead on this one. And what we're looking at, I like to title this Pain and Penance. This is a comparison to the real life uh, serial killer, Albert Fish, and a character I believe that was inspired by him, even if it wasn't a direct inspiring. The similarities are a little bit too on the nose. The
Ooh,
person I'm
really?
referring to is the fictional character Pinhead.
How can that possibly be? I mean, I thought that was actually just a made up character.
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of history, and then I'm going to show you what they go together with. Okay,
Ooh,
uh, Pinhead, the fictional character, is actually well known. Uh, in the story for him, he was originally a British officer named Elliot Spencer. He fought in World War I, but he had a few vices, namely a little bit too much of lust, gluttony. All the big seven was right there for
what movie was this in
him.
regards to?
This is the Hellraiser series.
Okay.
Uh, the name Elliot Spencer wasn't revealed till later on in the series. These historicals for him didn't come out until I believe like Hellraiser 2 and 3.
Ooh.
However, in the first Hellraiser, he actually only had a few minutes of screen time, but he was such a striking presence and spoke with just a commanding nature that they expanded his character later on in the lore.
Well, I'm
Uh, he
excited to
was,
see how these two are tied together.
Elliot wasn't always Pinhead, and Pinhead was not always the leader of the Cenobites, the race of angels slash demons that worship the Lamenters or configuration or the cube.
Yes. Anyone who's
Now,
seen those movies probably knows what you're talking about.
exactly. That's why I want to start with him. He serves a cosmic order, and his entire being is built around balance. I have a picture of what Elliot looked like before he became Pinhead. For those of you who have seen the movies, this should be recognizable. And when I'm talking about Pinhead, this is the classical picture that we all know and see in our heads. There's been a remake, but this is the Pinhead. Now, the
Secret
real
masterpiece.
life monster, and I use that term quite literally, of Albert Fish. He was born in 1870. That is 155 years ago. And the things he's done are just as horrible and horrific today as they were back then. I want to make this exceptionally clear. I am talking about someone who is a maker of monsters. This is someone who, if you have any triggers with mental illness, rape, molestation, this
He was
don't
really
listen to this.
so viewer discretion advised. Or
By far, I mean, Pinhead is very much the tamer of these two.
oh wow, he's
Yeah.
it sounds pretty horrible.
Oh, it gets worse. I have a lot of notes. I'm going to actually censor some of my notes because they can get
If he
really bad.
if it's that bad that you have to censor him, yeah,
I don't need to
please.
censor Pinhead. I need to censor what this man actually did. He engaged in self mutilation, sadomasochistic tendencies from before he was even mature. He claims it was from the onset of puberty.
Okay.
He, his specific target, though, was children. He engaged in cannibalism. He also wrote disturbing letters to the families of his victims. He was also schizophrenic. He believed he was carrying out divine punishment. Um, if you want to know more about the actual, if you this is interesting, there is a book that you can go to. It's called Deranged by Harold Sketcher. It has court transcripts of when he was captured, and it has a psychological analysis of him. It's a good resource. Um,
He is
the
really
one
unhappy.
this picture was taken from when he was 19 years old and arrested. This is mugshot.
That he was that young when it already started.
Yes, and he had already had victims by this age.
He
They
looks,
weren't known at the time, but
just looking at his picture, he looks soulless.
that's we're going to get into that as well too.
Okay.
Um, we're going to go into a little bit more of the psychology of Albert Fish first, and Albert Fish, his view on pain. It's really he believed that pain was purification,
Oh,
and he did not just do this to his victims; he did this to himself. He had a specific paddle filled with rusted needles, rusted wires that he would mac himself with, making his back as raw and bloody as can be.
oh my goodness! It makes me think of those what I'm not sure if it's monks or what it was that used, when you're
Flatulence.
yeah, and they'd whip them their own backs.
Oh yeah, he was a very big promoter of self-flagellation. Um, Likewise, Pinhead offers victims the gift of experiencing ultimate sensation.
Whether they were
Um,
willing or not.
yeah. Now, the pain he believed he was putting onto others was redemption. I really believe this is a bunch of horse caca, simply because what he has stated later on. But where Pinhead, for Pinhead, this wasn't personal. Pinhead, it was about no good, no evil, just the pursuit of experience. Albert Fish, this was always his own personal demons he was putting upon others.
Um, and how long did this go on for?
That's a great question. Oh, he was finally caught till 1932.
Holy crap!
The thing about 1870, he was finally imprisoned at 1932.
That's a long, long time.
62 years. Now, this is a picture of when he's older.
Did he ever show remorse for this?
Um, it's hard to say. There's a back and forth of whether or not he did or whether or not he thought he should have.
Okay.
So it's one of those.
Kind of hearsay, kind of not. Well,
Depending on what state, what psychosis he was in at the time. At the time,
did he actually go to prison, or did he go to a criminally a criminal insane asylum?
both, and he's been to prison multiple times throughout his career. And I hate to use the word career for it, but that's the best way to say it. See, between the two, Pinhead had a system. He had special rules. He followed this entire thing. He was more. It was more about the person invoking it than him going out and seeking his own experiences.
Okay.
Where Fish, Albert worked on pure impulse. He would literally be fine one day and then the next looking for another victim.
So it's like a
Uh,
switch that got flipped on and off repeatedly.
yeah, very much so. Um, Now, both used writing to sort of accentuate what they were doing. Pinhead would write decrees and pronouncements. He had this very official, like, I am in charge type, where Fish would write extensive letters to the victims' families to torture them. Months, years after he killed them, he would still write those families to make sure that he wasn't forgotten by them. Now, another thing these both share is kind of the cultural impact they have. Um, Pinhead has an entire movie franchise, not based directly on him, but on the works of Clive Barker. But he is the main figurehead of the Cenobites and how their entire influencing of pop culture. We could write an entire hour-long podcast and not even scratch that surface. Fish, though, like I said, it's 155 years ago. It's kind of fallen off for the people who, unless you study criminology, or if you have a true crime enjoyment, I'm going to use the word enjoyment. Most people don't know about Albert Fish.
I didn't know
And
about him.
yeah, this is what he's done. It's really hard to justify letting him slip into history. Like I said, I am not proclaiming him to be a good person. I'm not. I don't want to.
You're not condoning
Uh,
the actions he's done.
this is a monster. This is a
A
monster
real
that we
life
should
monster
not
at that.
forget. Yeah.
So,
So now, if you are going to study criminology, you will eventually find out about Albert Fish. There's other horror media that is inspired by him. We'll get into that a little later. Now, Pinhead is very much a fictional character. In fact, the he's more based on the ideas. That's at least what the author has declared. Is he's based on the ideas of pleasure over pain. The other Cenobites have different sins that they're comparable to,
yeah.
but comparing these two directly, it's very much about the sadomasochism,
So he
where
delighted in
Pin
hurting himself?
yes, he
Or is
hurt
that
himself.
sadocase?
Masochism, sadomasochism.
Okay.
He liked to hurt others. He liked to hurt himself. Now, in all the movies, Pinhead has shown his killings to be very quick. They look brutal, they look painful, but I think it's more for the movie. They don't want to go into too much gore. But what Albert Fish has done is I said in a couple words, but to get a good idea of this, at the age of 20, uh, he was already raping other people,
Oh,
and most of them were less than 6 years old.
he's a pedophiliac?
Yes.
Pedophilia? That's so disgusting.
hmm His mother even arranged a marriage for him
Are you
at the age of
mm,
at the age of 28 to a 19-year-old. Now, they did have children. They had 6 children. I'm not going to go into their names because they had no part in his dealings.
Sadistic.
They never even knew about it.
Okay, so they didn't know anything about his sadistic side.
No, he was to them. He was just, and this is one of the conundrums that I'm going to point out. He treated his children well. He did not beat them. He was never abusive towards them.
So he looked like the pitch perfect dad and father.
He'd occasionally fight with their mother, but his children loved him, and he
Wow.
loved his children. Uh,
I wonder if they ever found out.
oh no, they found out. They did find out. See, Fish was arrested for grand larceny in 1903,
Wow.
and he was convicted and incarcerated in Sing Sing prison.
Where is that located exactly?
Maximum security prison in New York State Department of Corrections. Yeah, Albert claims to have gone through all 48 states at the time, but he was primarily located out in New York.
Is there any reasoning behind his? Did they ever find out why he enjoyed doing this thing?
It has to do a little bit with his own psychosis,
Okay.
but the initial start of it, he claims it's because he was molested by another boy.
So he thought it was right because he was.
It's because he thought he enjoyed it. It wasn't because he thought it was right. He liked it.
Okay.
He also proclaimed that and this is an icky thing. So I'm trying to think of the tenderest way to put it.
Okay, if
He
there's
also
older children
enjoy,
anywhere near this podcast at the moment, tell them to cover their ears.
don't
Besides,
even
this is a
don't
mature
go
old.
near this podcast for your
Yeah,
child. No, no, no.
no, anyone under the age of 18 shouldn't be listening to this material. This is mature, uh, mature content. So, go ahead.
He liked urine and feces. Oh yeah,
That's gross.
yeah,
Did he just like slather it on himself?
ingesting.
Oh,
Yeah, this guy is he's a study in the depraved. But I don't not want to get too much into this. If you want to know more about Operafish, there are a lot of great resources out there.
yeah.
But when it comes to just the idea of excess and what he liked to do, this is the comparison between him and Pinhead. That way, Pinhead's known for flaying people. So I am going to tell you about one of the assaults that he did to someone he was dating for a while, another man. His friend took him to a museum, a wax museum, where he got to see a bisected penis. He wanted to know if that was true. Now his date was intellectually disabled. He took him to a barn, restrained him for 10 days, torturing him, possibly 2 weeks. And at the end, he cut off his genitalia so he could dissect it.
Was his um, subject dead at the time? By that time?
No.
Oh, he did that while
In,
he was alive?
in fact, Fish's own quote is, "I shall never forget his scream or the look he gave me."
Oh, wow.
He originally intended to kill him and kept his body, but it was hot weather time and he didn't want to draw too much attention. So what he did instead is he poured peroxide over the wound, wrapped it in a Vaseline covered handkerchief, and left a $10 bill, kissing him goodbye, and then took the first train home.
Perfection, man.
Now the funny thing is, you know he has six kids. You know he had a wife that his
Yeah.
mommy got for him. This is one of the reasons why his kids liked him so much. It was his wife who left him for a handyman in 1917.
So his wife left him with the kids.
Yep, and she took every possession they owned.
I'm sorry, but I want to. I would not have dared leave one of my children with that man ever.
She never knew what he was doing.
This guy's making me mad.
Now, see, the thing is, with his kids, like I said, they loved him. He never touched them. He protected them.
I understand that, but
He was a little weird, and one of his sons did state that his dad was always a little weird. At one point during a baseball game they were having, his dad walked up over the hill butt ass naked, started jumping up and down, said, "I am Jesus Christ risen."
so he's in a psychotic break.
Yes. The breaks started to happen even more after his wife left him. He even once wrapped himself up in a carpet saying he was following the instructions of John the Apostle.
Okay, and I know they
Now,
didn't have
he,
CPS at the time, but did not someone concern themselves with the kid's safety?
no, this was the past, and while he was known for fraud, uh, uh, stealing, he was known for theft. He was not known to be exceptionally violent.
You really?
Yes, and after his kids were adults, because he was still doing this well into his children being of age and out in their own, having their own families.
Yeah.
So
Oh my.
they never knew about that.
Until
Now
later on.
until later on, well, until he was arrested. Now the police had gone to him about a couple different things,
Hmm.
and one of the weirdest interactions I've ever heard of from Albert Fish, and this definitely is on the weird scale of things, is an officer when they were searching his bedroom
Hmm.
found a mummified human penis. He was not arrested that day because the officer couldn't recognize it as a penis.
Oh. Okay.
When the officer was holding it and saying, "What's this?" He said, "It's a hot dog." It's like, "Why do you have it in your room?" It's because I shove it up my ass. The officer did not arrest him that day.
When did they find out it was a penis?
After the fact, when he was arrested and tried and convicted, he just started telling them everything he's ever done. This is from his own accounting.
I bet you a few people lost their lunches that day.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now see another thing that you see all the chains in the background.
Yes.
That is Pinhead's style. That's his has his hellish instruments. Albert Fish had his own weapons he called the implements of hell. He had a meat cleaver, a butcher's knife, and a handsaw that he would use on his victims. Yeah.
Um,
And now, when this was all happening as well too,
mhm.
in 1930, 2 years before he was actually found and convicted, he found someone else to marry him.
Are you serious?
Yes. This time though, they
Oh,
divorced after 1 week.
oh, was it a man or woman?
It was well, there was no marrying of men between men
Okay.
back then.
Either way,
No,
I'm glad. Even if it was a man, I'm just glad that they got the heck out of there before it was too late.
yeah. Now he got arrested right after that. That's why she got the divorce, because he sent an obscene letter to a woman who answered an advertisement for a maid.
Okay.
Following that arrest and another one in 1931, he was sent to Bellevue Hospital for observation.
Why does that name sound familiar?
He checks off all the boxes.
Okay.
Bellevue is a hospital in New York City, the oldest public hospital in the United States.
Is it still running today?
I believe so.
Oh, wow. I'll have to check that out later.
Yeah, it's also home to the fire department and EMS services.
Oh, my. Then yeah, it's still functioning.
Now, like I said, I'm not going to go too much into like I said, into various crimes. The crime that he was first convicted of was the murder of Grace Budd.
Okay.
Um,
What did he do to her? Or him?
what he did to her is he killed her, he cut her apart, he cooked her,
Kind of
he mutilated her.
like Jeffrey Dahmer style or Hannibal Lecter style.
Um, worse than both.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
he took several days doing this.
And no one caught on.
In fact, they had a different suspect. They had arrested Charles Edward Pope, kept him in prison for 108 days between his arrest and the trial before he was found not guilty. During this time, though, he was writing letters to the family, and he, in detail, described how he killed her, how he cooked her, and what he did to her. Now, after he was captured, that's when he started divulging all these things he has done. He claims to have assaulted children in every single state. More than one. He says he's had over 100 victims. His favorite thing to do was castration.
So he had a thing
And
severely for penises.
yes, in fact, he has very few female victims. Uh, Grace Budd was the most well known because she was so young. He does have the other thing is she was so young. The young body of a child,
Yes.
male and females, very close. It's not sure exactly why he wanted her more. There's some tellings of why, but like I said,
You don't
he
want to
was
put in too much.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah, definitely. I can understand why you would kind of hold back on the information. 'Cause so far from what you've told us, has been very disturbing, and that's
Well,
just to say the least.
we have a list of known victims. It's nowhere near the 100 he's claimed, but these are the ones that we can confirm through what he's done, what he's been able to corroborate. Um, there are 3 known children that he's killed.
Mm,
And just trying to remember them, they were children. They deserved more than what they got in this world.
yes.
Uh, but
Going going back to what he was doing, how was it just the implements of hell that connects him to Pinhead?
no, no, there's more. Um, the way after he was imprisoned
Mhm.
and convicted, they gave him a full medical review because they didn't want him dying before they got through with everything.
Okay, so okay, go ahead.
And
All
I'm gonna get into this.
all right.
We call him Pinhead because of all the pins piercing his flesh and burrowed into him.
Yes.
Albert Fish enjoyed sewing needles buried in his flesh. He had a paddle, like I said, covered in rusted implements that he would paddle himself with.
Mm-hmm.
When they did X-rays of Fish, they found needles.
Oh.
This is an X-ray of his pelvis.
Oh. It's disgusting.
Yeah,
Got
I
long
believe it
ones and
was
little
they found.
ones.
Now these are the ones that he got to stay in there.
Oh my goodness, there was more than that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he had 72 needles in his groin, pelvis, and buttocks area.
I don't think I can look at Pinhead the same.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's that's just horrific. Oh, that's taking self mutilation to a different level. Ooh, I'm
Now his crimes didn't go unnoticed by the newspapers of the era. They didn't know it was him, but they knew someone was doing these things. In fact, he had, the press loves to give monikers.
yes.
They like their fancy names. They like giving people these larger than life personas. Jack had several names. Oh, sorry. Albert had several names.
Yes.
Let me get the full list because it's extensive. He was known as the Gray Man. Children point him out, and it's the Gray Man, this the scary man. The papers called him the Werewolf of Wisteria. He was also
Oh.
known as the Brooklyn Vampire. He was also called the Moon Maniac. And lastly, he was called, this is a name given to him by the children who he almost abducted that got away from him,
Uh huh.
the Boogeyman. For he was that thing that scared you at night.
Oh. Just childhood stories coming to mind about being, told, oh, you better behave or eat your vegetables because the boogeyman might get you.
Yeah, he like I said, he claims over 100
Ugh.
victims. No one knows if that's just molestations or if that's full cannibalism.
That's. I'm serious. My mind is just. I can't look at this man without disgust.
I just don't know why they let him wear a bowler for his mugshot. This is another mugshot.
I thought they were supposed to take their hats off so they could take an estimated, height different, thing.
I don't know. It was 1903. I guess the rules were different back then. Uh, I really the police really just were all over the place on this one.
I admit
Now
it.
he went by other names too when he was pretending to be people to try and lure victims. He also went by the name Frank Howard, Thomas A. Sprague, Robert Hayden, and John W. Pell.
Oh, this,
Now his story does have a definite ending. Like I said, he spent time in mental asylums. He spent time in prison.
yeah.
When he was convicted for the murder, and he started going on his full explanation of everything, he was sentenced to death. His children tried to beg for a stay of his execution, just put him in a mental, but no. New York
No, he
City
should have been put to death a long time ago.
on January 16th, 1936, at the age of 65. He was sentenced and commenced through the electric chair.
Oh.
Cause of death, execution by electrocution.
And what? Probably, I don't want to sound disgusting. Okay, I know this probably come across as disgusting, but the meals that he got to stay that give him reference to Pinhead is probably also what helped fright him.
He can. I don't know if they removed them or not. I know they were trying to look out to make sure he was going to be healthy for his execution. It's one of those weird things they do, but I don't know if they got them all out or not.
Mm, it's interesting to find out the real suspects or the real people behind the masks, so to speak, of that of the people or creatures, monsters that had inspired movies, such as Hellraiser in this case.
Well, like I said, Hellraiser is the one that I draw the biggest connection to.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
look at that pelvic thing, that pelvic exam. I mean, look at all those
well, they
needles.
both believed they were religious, doing the god of the job, bleh, the god,
The,
the jobs that the gods placed upon them.
okay, you having a little trouble
They
there?
believed they were divinely ordained. Now, this was definitely part of Fish's psychosis,
Yeah.
but in modern culture, yes, I believe he intentionally, unintentionally, he's inspired so many horror stories that he may be the best correlation for Pinhead out there.
Hmm.
But there's also others who more than likely were inspired by him. Now, this is a smaller picture. Do you recognize who that is?
Not at all.
That is from Silence of the Lambs.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. Is it the one with Anthony Hopkins?
Yes, this is from the one with Anthony Hopkins. This is oh, it's been forever. My brain just
Oh wow,
I'm looking through my notes. Give me 1 second.
no problem. You can definitely tell he's either rocking the '80s hair and clothing vibe.
Yeah, this
He's
is
got a nipple
uh
ring.
not Wild Bill, but 1 second.
No problem. But if Was
Um,
go ahead.
this is the one that they were trying to catch in the original Silence of the Lambs.
That the Anthony Hopkins character, Hannibal Lecter took.
The one that they were in communication,
Okay, so
but
he was working
They
with
went to
Lecter.
Annabelle for insight into his mind.
Okay, so he was the original killer that they were trying to get a hold of. That they use Hannibal Lecter's, I guess, advice and guidance on.
Yeah, the correlation is because of the taking people, keeping them for a long period of time, torturing them, the skinning of them.
Which
Now,
then fascinated him.
yes, and also the homosexuality.
Okay, mind
Now,
you, there is nothing
Han-
wrong with that.
no, nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Now, not only did they believe that he inspired this character, he also inspired because of his psychosis Hannibal himself,
Oh wow,
because he would write down how he roasted people, how he cooked them in his letters to his victims' families.
that is so wrong. That's like rubbing massive amounts of salt into a wound that can
Yes.
never heal.
Though he did try to offer one bit of solace to Grace Blood's family.
What?
He didn't rape her. In his eyes, he made sure she died pure for the next world.
Oh,
Now, some of the other monsters that Fish has inspired, like I said, they've called him everything from a vampire to a werewolf
yeah,
to a maniac. Um, but he's also definitely a pedophile.
yeah.
He may have also been partially inspiring Freddy Krueger.
Which makes me wonder. Okay, this makes me wonder because Freddy Krueger is probably one of the killers down the way that we're going to discuss um, eventually. Because we will take a look at movie monsters and what truly inspired them. Because he did supposedly, diddle kids. Um, but I wonder if he's what also inspired Fish, not Fish, but what uh, that Jeffrey Dahmer was inspired by Fish too,
I don't know about that. That's one of those things I've
because
not been able to find out
he did go
because
after
Dahmer
little
never really
kids.
talked about who inspired him,
He
and there
went
wasn't.
after little kids,
Hmm.
mainly boys.
Yeah, but Dahmer never really talked about who he was, if he had any inspiration things he's looking onto, or if it was just his own psychosis as
Sure,
well too. And let's just be honest, the amount of information in this day and age available to common people is a lot different than it was back in the 80s, the
that
70s.
is very true.
And by the 80s and 70s, Fish was already over 100 years at that point in the past.
He
Uh,
yeah, no.
Now, see, the connection to Freddy that I see
Mhm.
is the fact that the children knew about Albert Fish. He was the boogeyman
My question to this is: if so many children kept pointing him out, why didn't anyone believe the children?
because he was so plain looking.
So they thought they were just lying because they didn't like him because he was
No,
scary.
they thought he was a person. In fact, I'm going to tell you about some of the people who got away from him. Okay,
Okay.
and I know the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a fictionalized telling of a real person,
Text
but
no, it's not a
I'm going to tell
fiction.
you a story.
I thought that was based off a true story.
It's a fictionalized telling of the true story.
Okay, okay. I understand.
Yeah,
I misunderstood.
the person who they base that off of
Hmm.
is exceptionally tame compared to Fish.
Really? I can't even watch
I hate
that
to say
movie.
that.
I can't even watch that
Yeah,
movie fully. That's bad. And I love horror movies. That movie grosses me out. Mm-mm.
But no, some the reason why I bring this one up
Mhm.
is he asked two children. He said they looked hungry. Did they want to come in for a sandwich? So he actually got them into his apartment.
Mhm.
They were bouncing and playing on his bed, wrestling around,
Mhm.
but they knocked the bed to the side a little bit.
Mhm.
When they dislodged the mattress, underneath was his implements of hell. They saw the knife, they saw the handsaw, and they saw the meat cleaver.
They
They
run.
became so frightened they ran right out of the apartment.
They made it.
They made it. Yeah, this is why, like I said, he was a nightmare to the people who came close.
So he was convincingly a charming man or nice man or something to others, but once he got his claws into you, so to speak, he was completely different.
Yeah, he definitely had a Jekyll and Hyde to him as well too. Like I said, family around his children,
Hmm.
they adored him. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't vicious. He wasn't nasty to them at all.
And they were
He
okay
did
with what he did when they
not
found.
after they found out. They couldn't for a long time. His daughter could not wrap her head around what he was saying he did. I mean, this is a full confession at this point, and the man she had grown up with.
I can understand how it'd be hard to believe, but he's admitting to it.
Yeah, here's
That
another one story of his almost victims.
okay.
This happened in 1924. He found an 8-year-old girl playing alone on her parents' farm. He offered her money to come and help him look for rhubarb. She was about to leave the farm with him when her mother chased him away. But he returned later that night. He tried to hide in their barn. Thankfully, he was discovered by her father, and he forced him to leave.
I bet you those parents stayed on watch 24 hours for next few days.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What else is there you can tell us about this man?
Um, I actually just like to take a moment for his victims. I just
Okay,
want to say their names, give them a moment of silence and remembrance.
I can
Uh,
definitely
I've
do that.
already I've already mentioned Grace Budd. She's the one that got him caught. Um, but there's also Francis McDonald. He was 8 years old. Billy Gaffney was 4 years old. Those are the three confirmed definites. These are the others who are suspected. Yetta Abramowitz. She was 12. Mary Ellen O'Connor. She was 16. These survived, but they were assaulted by him. Emma Richardson and Benjamin Collins.
Those were the members or victims?
Those are the confirmed and the suspected. Like I said, Fish proclaimed that he had hundreds.
And they probably are. It just were too scared to come forward, or he made sure they were never found.
He also targeted people that he made sure the police wouldn't believe. He even confessed that he had a penchant for targeting the mentally infirm
Mm-hmm.
and African Americans because he knew the police would not give them credence.
I don't want to swear. I don't want to swear.
The past is the worst. Yes.
Let's take a moment of silence for those that were targeted, those that survived, and those that did not.
Now, if you want more information about Albert Fish, if you're trying to understand the psychology of what happened, there's a couple, like I mentioned before, Deranged by Harold Schechter. It's Schechter. I do apologize to the author. I know I'm massacring that. It's an autobiography of Albert Fish. If you're just wanting more information about Pinhead, The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. So much about. You can also petition if you want to read the court transcripts and the psychological analysis of Albert Fish. That's there for everyone. There's also tons of podcasts that do a deep dive into the criminalization of what he's done, into the psychology. This is just an overview of a theory I have on what he may have inspired because we were looking at where some of our most known movie monsters come from.
Give
Uh,
a grain of truth somewhere.
and and honestly, Pinhead is a much nicer creature than Albert Fish was.
That's true.
One had rules, the other didn't understand what a rule was.
That's true. All right. Next time on a deep look into the paranormal and unknown, we are going to look at lesser known cryptids. Um,
Yeah, cryptids are fun.
yeah, I'm sorry, this is really depressing. I'm actually teared up. Um, but no, we'll look at lesser known cryptids. I know there's a lot of cryptids out there that are very well known, but um, that's what we will do next time. And I believe that is, give me a second as I look up the calendar. 'Cause today's the 9th. I believe it was towards the end of the month. There we go. It will be on the 23rd of February. The 23rd of February is when we'll be talking about the lesser known cryptids. One of them being an Indonesian cryptid known as the Ahul, Hool. And I was also going to look at the Pope Lick monster, known out of Louisville, Kentucky.
Do I get to do a couple too, or is this are you gonna do all of them this one?
We're we'll have other episodes where we'll do more cryptids along the way. But if you can find me a lesser known cryptid, I will let you talk about it after I talked about the two that I've got.
Okay, because I know of two. They're Western Pennsylvania kind of specific.
If we have time to do your two in addition to my two, then sure.
Okay.
But
Do
remember,
you want to know their names?
sure. What are their names?
It's called the Squonk. Yep, Squonk and the
Okay,
Hodag.
and the Hodag. Alrighty, all right. Well, that'll be it for next time. We hope you enjoyed this podcast of, excuse me, deep look into the paranormal and unknown, and we will see you next time. Leave your
Take care,
comments in.
everybody.
Yeah, definitely take care and leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, if you like, dislike, disliked, and don't forget to subscribe.